Iwakura Mitsumi 今日から東京の高校生です
In remembrance of every anime that exists outside of shonen and seinen, I wanted to make a video about a manga that made me love romance mangas and anime again. And let's just dive right in it and let me tell you why you should read Skip to Loafer. Mitsumi is the main character in the manga, and before I start to talk about her general role, I want to talk about her character design, because it is quite unique for the female character to look like her. She's really plain, and no, when I say she looks plain, I don't mean in a way every other female protagonist is described in every other teenage show. No, I mean that she's really just a normal, simple girl. And you know what? I really appreciate that. People are really attracted to her personality, and it is really nice to see that her looks do not play a role in it. Now that we have that covered up, let's talk about her character. Her character in itself is not really unique. She's a country girl that moves to the big city in order to be in a better school and pursue a promising future, and then later on invest in her hometown. In itself, her character actually reminds me of most shonen protagonists. She's kinda an underdog and has to prove herself, or at least that's what she thinks, and make friends in an unexpected way. My god. This is maybe the reason why I like this manga, because it's basically shonen but in a slice of life form. No. What makes her so special is that she actually feels like a real person, which many shonen protagonists do not. She's someone you can just meet in your day-to-day life, and you wouldn't even question it. And when I say that she reminds me of shonen protagonists, I don't mean that she has a savior complex, but she rather uplifts people without even realizing it. I particularly like the storyline in Volume 2, where she meets Takamina, who is a high-achieving student and part of the student council, and obviously Mitsumi looks up to her since she embodies everything she wants to be in the future. Thus, she follows her throughout the day that she has planned out to the teeny tiniest second in order to be the most efficient self. But then, when we get to this one scene where after a long and packed day, both of them sit on a bus and Takumi is really stressed out since her entire schedule got messed up because of Mitsumi, as she got distracted by her surroundings every time, so she's like 36 minutes behind. And then again, in the bus, Mitsumi calls out to her, again, distracting her from her studies, and as she looks over, obviously annoyed, she sees the scenery outside that Mitsumi gazes at and realizes that through a scheduled life, she kind of forgot to appreciate life. And that is exactly what I mean when I say that Mitsumi changes people's life without realizing it. And it's cute. She's kind of oblivious of how much happiness she brings to the other people around her, but she always tries her best, and her being kinda oblivious to some stuff actually helps her. Like, I thought that her relationship with Egashira would turn out way differently. We'll get to that later on than I expected, and it is basically because Egashira gets infatuated by Mitsumi's kindness and can't stop but view her as a friend as the story continues. And I think that Mitsumi's kindness is her biggest strength. She's so open to everything, but she also doesn't back down from confrontations and always tells what she feels, which was something I often find quite annoying in shoujo, the unnecessary misunderstanding to create some drama. And yeah, of course, there was tension in the manga that Mitsumi is confronted with, but she always goes out of her way to solve it. But she continues to do it with kindness and never loses herself and her identity. Even when she moves to the big city, she keeps her humbleness. Mitsumi is also not trying to be the best at everything and doesn't get upset immediately when she isn't as good in one thing. Like when she went bowling with her friend group. She isn't quite good at it and everyone else sees and thinks so. But she's so happy about hitting a few cones, and you can't help but also be happy. And that's what I really like about her. She offered something to me that I haven't really seen in this type of manga, and it was really beautiful. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really fond of Sōsuke's character in the beginning. I didn't dislike him or anything, but the aloof character doesn't really do it for me. You know, the popular guy who really gets along well with everyone, but no one really knows him. And he happens to have a tragic past. At least that's what I assumed at first. I thought that he had faced a tragic death in the past or any other trope that is used to make us feel something for the character, which is not ultimately bad, but often used in a very cheap way. So I kind of written him off as that character. But as we get to know him better, I actually began to like him more and more and felt bad to have written him off as one-dimensional in comparison to the main girl that offered me so much that I loved. However, as the story in the manga pushes forward, I began to relate to Sōsuke more and more, much more to Mitsumi even. But Mitsumi is not perfect, always trying to do her best, actually makes her much more desirable than Sōsuke, who is quite flawed. But his flaws and insecurities ground him a lot, especially since he appears so untouchable at first in Mitsumi's eyes. Liked by everyone and so effortlessly charismatic, qualities that seem attractive to the reader too. And this perception is emphasized by him always being surrounded by people. However, as the story progresses, his flaws become very apparent, and we learn about his past and his closed-off nature, which was created through something that is very relatable, trying to reach the expectation of a parent, which is in this case his mother. And I think everyone can relate to that, might it be in a more minor or bigger extent. And in this case, his mother tried to live her dreams through him, and we meet this child who just wanted to make his mother happy, which many children can relate to, with which the reader immediately can sympathize with, as it is a really human feeling. But it put him into a position in which he became not a bad person, but someone you might keep your distance from, which is embodied through Saijo, a constant remembrance of his past that he just cannot escape from, which is an interesting theme to explore. Him meeting Ririka or Saijo again immediately sets him back to his more aloof presence, as he again feels the burden of the past. Sōsuke and Ririka set a great contrast to each other, but are to their very core still the same. Sōsuke played along in the actor scenery when he was younger and kinda engaged in activities in which child actors are often drawn into, like underage drinking, and he really doesn't seem bothered by that. However, with Ririka, we can see the tool acting took on her and how it kinda ruined a part of her life. She grows a huge resentment towards Sōsuke as he seems to have moved on from that part of his life. However, that's where she's wrong and where they also share a common ground, as they are both stuck in the past and let their self-worth and social behavior be determined by it. Deep down, they're insecure little children who haven't fully reached their age. With Sōsuke, we see an unhealthy parent-child relationship, where it felt like he always had to give more than take to make his mother happy, but with that, acting no longer was a passion, but rather an obligation. And even when we meet him as a teenager, he's not able to separate acting from that, although it is an activity he once found joy in. It instead stands as an obstacle that he has to overcome in order to emotionally and mentally grow. Mitsumi kinda pushes him to be confronted with his insecurities, as he's kinda starstruck by her sincerity, because he never really met someone like her who just follows their own desires with so much love, which was possible for her as her life was quite sheltered. By him meeting her, his life gains so much joy again, and he's open to more feelings. At the beginning, he was not eager at all to participate in anything that had anything to do with acting. He constantly rejects his theater guy who joined his play, and while he plays it off acting cool, you can see the fear that he has if anyone finds out that he used to act and how they will behave differently towards him, creating an environment in which he can't really trust anyone, but to a bigger extent, the opposite is happening. Of course, some people are starstruck by that, but the dynamics to the people he's more close to, nothing really changes, which allows him to stand his ground more and find happiness. And I really love the panel in which he just says that it's been such a long time since he had fun at school festivals, and it does string at your heart. Him finally confronting Ririka and apologizing for his past actions, but also making it clear that his life will no longer be determined by the guilt that she puts on him, sets a great contrast to the Sōsuke that we meet at the beginning of the story. Nonetheless, he has still a lot of room to grow, and I still haven't read the chapters where he and Mitsumi enter their relationship, but I do know that it ends quite quickly, and it makes a lot of sense. Although Sōsuke has grown significantly, he's still not able to always place his emotions and be in touch with them. That is a progression that I'm excited to follow. While Mitsumi is a great character to follow, she sometimes lacks a bit of complexity, which is brought into the story through Sōsuke, and also the other side characters. However, only his complexity would quite bore me, so they do balance each other out perfectly. I do enjoy both of the characters because of the other, and following them brings me a lot of joy. Nonetheless, I want to end this section by pointing out that Sōsuke was a character that I didn't know that I needed, but that I greatly appreciated. When Egashira is introduced into the story, I thus thought, oh no, here we go again, introducing the rival of the female protagonist. But oh my, was I wrong, because this is not the direction that was chosen at all. Nonetheless, Mika is quite unlikable at the beginning. We think that she has an ulterior motive, and she kind of does, so it's somehow really easy to not like her at first, but in reality it becomes quite obvious that she's just a teenage girl who has fallen in love with someone, and that someone is Sōsuke. Her jealousy towards Mitsumi is also never aggressive, but she just distances herself from her as she wants to stand out on her own. So she is just someone who wants to impress the boy that she likes. But the way that she does it is not really authentic. She thinks that she has to alter herself in order to seem attractive towards him, which is why it is so confusing for her when she realizes that Sōsuke has some kind of affection towards Mitsumi, as she doesn't really try, at least in her eyes, to be more girly or attractive, which results in some sort of resentment. However, she can't really help but get somewhat attached to Mitsumi and her friend group, although her jealousy is in the way of it at first. But she also feels somewhat guilty, as she doesn't think it is right to be friends with Mitsumi due to her attraction towards Sōsuke, which is why she keeps her feelings to herself. However, as her friendship with the girls grows tighter, the reader sees how her toxic outviews on how a woman should behave change, and she begins to really appreciate the female friends that she made. And it becomes severely evident that her feelings towards Sōsuke are mostly caused due to his popularity, not because she liked him for his personality, as she never truly knew him. So she has still a lot of room to grow when it comes to perception of other people, but also how she wants to be perceived. In chapter 30, as an example, she even points out that she changed herself so much that it made her kind of a worse person. But she did all of these things to become more popular and or a boy magnet. She puts out this confident and superior attitude in order to seem better than everyone else, but it is shown that she's deeply insecure and does things mostly for other people and not herself, with which she's constantly confronted with since meeting Mitsumi. But it is also a fact that it pushes her to become more real and authentic. Thus, although Egashira might not be your favorite character at first, you cannot help but feel for her. Her hesitance to become friends with the girls, and her surprise that someone might actually like her. Basically, Egashira is the person none of us really want to be in a story, but she's also someone anyone can at least partly sympathize with, as we all felt what we felt and acted like she acted. I wanted to put Murashige and Kurume into the same section, as they present a nice connection in the story. Murashige struggles under what is known as pretty privilege. People easily approach her and seek her out, but not because of her personality, but solely because of her looks. She felt pressured to acknowledge those friendships or even accept confessions, as people would basically call her conceited, that she thinks that she's better than anyone else if she wouldn't. Although she is aware of the benefits her looks bring her, she was still incredibly lonely, as no one really knew or tried to know her, and she sort of had to put on a facade, not just approach people, as they would start to make assumptions about her intentions. And one of those people is Kurume. Kurume immediately distances herself from her and sets herself and Murashige into categories that don't align, and thus they cannot seriously be friends. She only sees Murashige for her looks, and as she is not as attractive as her, she assumes that she must be a mean girl. However, it becomes obvious quite quickly that her assumptions about her make Kurume look very bad, which was a reverse trope that I kind of enjoyed, that the one that views herself beneath the other because of their own insecurities was actually somehow of a bully. It is a very realistic approach, as someone as Kurume already views themselves as the victim, since they were often treated badly by other people because of their looks. However, this can lead to the assumption that they're always the victim and cannot possibly hold any power over someone, especially over a person that is attractive as Murashige. So it is nice to see Kurume overcome her prejudice and learn that people are whatever they want to be and don't have to force themselves into one category, but also that she doesn't need to live by those rules. And the friendship that follows is beautiful, where they actually share a quite deep connection and understanding, as their problems are somewhat similar, which is their appearance and self-view. So it is nice to see, as a reader, how close they become over the course of the manga. And this sort of treatment is also there with the side characters, like Mitsumi's aunt, the theater kid, and all the other friends they make along the way. So if you want to read something that just fills you with joy, you should pick up Skip to Loafer. Hey Watchers, this is TheWatcher with another video. Sorry that it took me a while, but yeah, it just took me a while to write this video. Then just some problems came up with my microphone, but here I am. I hope you enjoyed this video and really please pick up this manga. It will get an adaptation in April, I think. And yeah, read it if you want to be one of those manga readers. And just have fun with it, because I can guarantee this will really make you happy. So yeah, read Skip to Loafer and see you next time. Bye!